Hi and welcome to Wristtraining. In between the exercises, I'm going to read something about membrane proteins and try to learn it, and participating in the exercises is such an honor. Let's start with the first exercise. We're in a good state, and the arm comfortable at the side, the hand formed to a fist, and we are with both hands, and we are turning both fists down, and again up, and again down. If you feel pain or something, then stop immediately. And we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. And as soon as we've reached the point which we can reach, with a little bit of effort, turning around and not going into the other direction. And now for last time with this exercise, which is called the spotlight. And it was last time. Now to the membrane proteins. Membrane proteins are a type of something called proteins. So there is something which is called proteins. And membrane proteins are a type of it. Membranes are a round of cells and are separating what's internal of the cells from the external of the cells. So a membrane is a round of a cell, and it separates what is intern from the external part. So it's as a layer around it. And the next exercise, it is the flashlight. Again, both arms with hands formed to a fist, comfortable beside you, and then we're turning them to the inside this time, and then to the outside. And we're going again, as far as we can go with a bit of effort, and in one direction, and when we're turning around, and going into the other direction, as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. And now for a last time. And back to the membrane proteins, wasn't it? Membrane proteins. So membrane is a round of cells as a layer is a wrapping around of a cell, and membrane proteins are a type of proteins. And membrane proteins are a part of the membranes which are around of cells. So a membrane is a round of a cell, and our membrane proteins are a part of this membrane. So a membrane around of cells consists at least to a part out of membrane proteins. There are different types of membrane proteins which are part of a membrane around of cells. And types of membrane proteins are listed here: integral membrane proteins and peripheral membrane proteins. So there's not just one type, but at least two are here mentioned: the integral membrane proteins and the peripheral membrane proteins. Integral membrane proteins and peripheral membrane proteins. And all the membrane proteins, and they are all the type of proteins, and they are part of a membrane which is around of cells to separate what's internal from what's external. The next exercise, it is a magician. So we're having now both hands with flat hands beside us. The palms of hands are turned to the ground, and we're turning these flat hands to the inside and to the outside. And to the outside and to the inside. And we're going again, only as far as we can go with a bit of effort. And then you're turning around and are just going slowly into the other direction. And now for a last time. Membrane proteins. There are two types: integral membrane proteins and peripheral membrane proteins. Both are part, we don't know about both, but they are part of the membrane around of cells. Integral membrane proteins. Integral membrane proteins are permanently a part of the membrane. So integral membrane proteins are permanently a part of the membrane. Integral membrane proteins can be transmembrane. When integral membrane proteins are transmembrane, it is that they can penetrate the membrane. So transmembrane integral proteins are permanently a part of the membrane, and they can penetrate the membrane. We are going through the membrane. So we can penetrate the membrane. So they are transmembrane. They are transmembrane integral proteins, integral membrane proteins. And integral membrane proteins are permanently a part of a membrane of cells, and the membrane is a layer around them. And they are transmembrane integral membrane proteins. Transmembrane means they penetrate through or spanning through the membrane of the cells. The next exercise, it is the pancake flipper. So again, both hands with flat hands next to us, both flat hands under the ground with the palms, and now we are bringing them up, and again down. And again, now we're going as fast as we can go with a little bit of effort. And as soon as we've reached what we could reach with a little bit of effort, we're turning slowly around and are going back. And now for the last time. So integral membrane proteins are permanently a part of the membrane, and they are transmembrane integral proteins, and transmembrane means that they can penetrate the membrane. Integral membrane proteins can be integral monotopic. When integral membrane proteins are integral monotopic, that means that they can associate with one or the other side of the membrane. We can associate with one or the other side of the membrane, whatever that means. Let's say they can be on one or the other side of the membrane. So, transmembrane, they are going through the membrane, and integral monotopic. Integral monotopic means they are associating with one or the other side, whatever one has to imagine under associating with one or the other side. And to the next exercise, it is the T-Rex in the morning. So both hands are out with flat hands, and we are bringing them down, and again up, and again down, and down, and again up. Now for last time. Okay, the first type of membrane proteins are the integral membrane proteins, and they are transmembrane integral membrane proteins, and they penetrate through the membrane, and they are integral monotopic integral membrane proteins, and they associating with one or the other side of the membrane. And they are the peripheral membrane proteins, and the only thing said here to them is that they are temporary. Yes, the integral membrane proteins, whether with the transmembrane, through the membrane, or integral monotopic associated with one or the other side, are temporary and are permanently. The integral permanently, and the peripheral temporarily. So integral, they are always in, they are permanently, and peripheral, they are only partially. They are temporary. Temporary part of cell membrane. The next exercise is the T-Rex. Now the T-Rex is in the gym. So the T-Rex has a tennis ball. So if you don't have a tennis ball, just do it without time. And the 4 fingers are gripping the ball like this. And now we're having a flat arm from the knuckles to the elbow. And we are pressing on the tennis ball. And we're releasing again. And we are pressing another time. And we release. And we are pressing again. Now with the other arm. We are pressing. And we release. And we are pressing. And we release. And the last time. press, and release. So where are we? Integral membrane proteins and the peripheral membrane proteins. Integral, they are in the membrane, they are always where they are permanently. The transmembrane are going through, they penetrate through the membrane, and the integral monotopic integral membrane proteins, they are associated with one or the other side of the membrane, and the peripheral whatever, they are temporarily. They're only partially temporarily a part of the cell membrane. Peripheral membrane proteins. It's about membrane proteins, so they are integral membrane proteins and peripheral membrane proteins. A third of proteins in humans are membrane proteins, which are proteins who are as integral membrane proteins permanently and as peripheral membrane temporarily a part of their membrane, which is the repertoire of human cells. A lot of medicamentation to heal diseases targets membrane proteins, which are a third of human cells, a third of proteins in humans. To recreate the native state of membrane proteins as they have it in the human body is a tough job to do in laboratory environments. So a third of all proteins in the human body are membrane proteins, and there are a lot of medicamentations which target these membrane proteins, even though it is hard to recreate the state which these membrane proteins have in a laboratory as they have it in the native state in the human body, as part of the membrane around of cells, either as integral membrane proteins when they are permanently, either as transmembrane through the membrane, or as integral monotopic associated with one or the other side of the membrane, or as peripheral membrane proteins when they are temporarily as a part of the membrane around of cells. Now to the next exercise, it is the cautious Big Bang. So we're placing the fingertips of one hand on top of the fingernails of the other hand. Now we're opening the hand with a resistance of a force against the hands, which is resisting our opening movement. And then we're closing again against the resistance, with resistance against the force which the hand on top is bringing on the other hand. And now we're opening again. And we have switched over the other hand. And a few times more. And the last time. So, let's close. Now to the quadrangular castle architect. Both hands with fists out, and we're turning these fists towards each other. And when we're bringing them up and to the sides and down and to the inside. And now back, down and to the outside. And up, and now into the last position to the inside. And we have made our way to the last exercise. It is the crab anxious to a fever. We're having the arm with the fists next to us. We are turning the fist down, and now we are pressing a little bit against the outside of the index finger. And now from the outside against the outside to the inside, pulling it a little bit. And now from the top. And from the bottom. Now with the other hand from the fist, and we're turning it down. And from the outside. And from the top. And from the bottom. Now the last exercise. We're going with our fingers over the middle part of the lower arm for a few times. With moderate pressure. And the last time on the other side. And with that we are done with the wrist training. So, membrane proteins. There are two types. The integral membrane proteins, they can be transmembrane when they are going through the membrane, or integral monotopic when they are associated with one or the other side of the membrane. The membrane is around the cells to separate what's external and internal. And they are the peripheral membrane proteins. They are temporarily integral membrane proteins. Were only permanently integral. They are in. They are permanently temporal. Peripheral membrane proteins. They are partly only. They are temporarily. And a lot of medications target them, even though it's hard to recreate what we are doing the native body, or the state which they have in the native state which they have in the human body. And there was one point more, but I don't know it, and I'm over time. Thank you very much, and until next time.